you go to the biblical idea of perfection, if you look at the Greek, the word is teleos, right? Now, teleos actually means completion.
The deepest thing that for me is, and as you said earlier, you're sticking with something even though it's not working, even though it's not necessarily, it may not be for you, but you're sticking with it because this is what you think perfection looks like.
Yeah.
But what you said is, and even in your experience of trying something different, trying something new, right? And recognizing when those things that you're sticking with, they're not for you, recognizing when it's time to let go and time to move on. So I kind of already announced what the equation is, and the equation is perfection. So when you think about perfection, when you hear that word, what comes to your mind?
When I've thought of perfection, it's
Welcome back, solvers, to another episode of The Equation. I'm your host, Elena Henry. And today we have a special equation that we're going to be talking about today. Today's equation is perfection. Now, I want you to think about that. When you hear the word perfection, what do you think about, right? But before we get into it, I'm going to welcome a special guest to the studio, to the pods. She is my sister. She is my sister in Christ, my bestie, everything. And it's just a blessing to have her here. She's also the founder of Lighthouse PR Agency. And she is the founder of We Are His Project, which is a space for 30-plus-year-olds to really come together and rediscover Christ and community through creativity. So please give me a warm welcome and welcome with me, my sister, Cyan, also known as Nara Noir. Hey, girl.
Hello, my love. That was so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Equation Pod.
My pleasure
honey.
to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course, anytime. And yeah, I'm excited for what we're going to get into today. So I kind of already announced what the equation is, and the equation is perfection. So when you think about perfection, when you hear that word, what comes to your mind?
So I've reframed how I think about perfection. But I think initially when I've thought of perfection, it's I can just envision this like idea of being very like, I don't know how to explain it, but like on the line.
Yeah.
Not teetering to the left, not teetering to the right, just so, you know. And I think how I look at perfection now is something that God's taken me on a journey with that is changing. But I think growing up, it was very much about, you know, not offending, making sure everybody else was happy, making sure there was nothing anyone could pull me up about. There were no flaws or anything that was openly showing, you know, doing everything that I could to kind of stay on this line. So yeah, I'll probably pause there.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting because, I mean, this whole podcast is about marriage and relationships and kingdom-minded marriages and relationships. But before we get into relationships, we also have to check ourselves, right? And so this whole thing of perfection, and that's why I'm excited to talk about this equation, because how do we actually solve this? Is perfection a bad thing? Is there a good side to perfection? You know, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So, what is your experience with perfectionism? What is your experience with this equation? How did you handle it? And yeah, just tell me a bit more about your lived experience.
Yeah. So there was something you started to touch on there when you said perfection and then you mentioned perfectionism. And I feel like that was something that I identified with very quickly, being a perfectionist from a very young age. And I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, I've had these conversations with God and, you know, just as you go through your self-development on like, what has my experience been in life and how has perfectionism tied into that? And I think one of the things that I really discovered is I think growing up, especially, so at 3 years old is when my brother was born. And I remember at the time I was at a Montessori nursery. If anybody, I mean, I don't know how Montessoris are now, but I remember our nursery being very like, almost like it's training you to be like a small adult. You know, wow. I remember working, having to spell my name before I could go out to play. Again, maybe it didn't go like that, so let me not bad up no one, but I just felt like I had to get things right before I could be rewarded.
Yeah.
And bear in mind, I'm about 2-3 years old. So I feel like I started to go on this journey with knowing that, okay, I need to get things right in order to be allowed to progress or be, seen in a certain way. Again, I'm now an older sister.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's a lot of attention and things that are being poured into my brother as a baby. But I'm still at a critical age where I'm thinking, okay, where's my place in this dynamic?
Yeah.
And so I think, there were, and again, I'm not even saying that these things individually were like a thing that mashed me up, let's say. But I think they all started to compound. So then I went to my primary school, which was a very white school. And I'm the only black girl in my class. In fact, I'm the only black girl in my year. So you've got about 60 children and I'm the only black, girl at the time, right? And I think with that now, there's this idea of how do I ensure I fit in with, the children there?
Yeah.
How do I find my place? How do I show up perfectly for them that they can't reject me? Is it the things that I say? Is it the things that I do? Is it how I look? What can I do to kind of find my place here and be seen as perfect? And I think how I've begun, I think why I attached myself to being a perfectionist was because as I'm kind of going down this path, I'm noticing where getting things right or appearing to get things right is working for me.
Yeah.
Is working for me. The question really is, by whose standards am I getting things right?
Ooh, that's the question.
Because now, what I'm not realizing, but I'm realizing is that perfectionism changes depending on who's in the room. So, if you think of childhood and being, again, with white children, maybe being perfect looks like having a very Eurocentric look or, liking the same music or the same jokes or whatever it might be. And I have to just say this because
tell us, girl.
I think it's very ironic that my hair is straightened today.
Yeah.
This is not a subscription to any form of Eurocentricity, right?
No.
But I can't lie, the silk press is just what I felt like doing
it's
right now.
Child.
It's easy for me to manage right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think even that, like knowing that I don't have to now just do braids or a natural hairstyle because Black people are going to be thinking, oh, if your hair's straight, you're, now I'm not being viewed perfect in their eyes. Do you know what I mean? Being able to start to just identify who I am and what I like rather than what somebody else wants for me to do.
Ooh, yes.
Right? So I think if we bring that even to relationships now, we're talking about, as I said, perfectionism changes or perfection changes depends on who's in the room. You could be in a situation where you're at church and perfection looks like being a child that's well behaved and that, goes on a pulpit and speaks and does different things and is, viewed as living this very Christian and healthy life by their standard.
Yeah.
But then you could be at university and now you're, amongst people who, again, let me not even say people, guys. Yeah, you're amongst people who are expecting or desiring a certain energy from you. And that's what perfect looks like in their eyes. So I think what I come to realize, or the first thing I came to realize is that, and why I don't really subscribe to perfectionism in a way that I would have at a time, because I think being a perfectionist was a badge that I used to wear with pride. I'm putting perfectionism alongside excellence.
Yeah. Oh,
and they're not actually the same.
They're not the same.
They're not actually the same how we view perfection, right?
Okay.
As a society. So I think with that, this whole idea of perfection would change depending on who I'm with, because essentially what I'm really seeking is to not be seen as offensive, to not be seen as getting it wrong. If you want to take it deeper, to not be rejected. Because
the fear of rejection.
If you can be perfect for whoever is in the room, they should have no reason to reject you.
Yeah.
And if we think about relationships, how deep can that go? How much can now we shapeshift ourselves to fit a mold, to fit an ideal that someone else has, even if that's not what you truly desire or who you truly feel you are.
Yeah. Ooh, okay. There's a lot of gems there. There's a lot of gems. Honestly, I think one of the biggest things is seeing the connection of childhood and how it then impacts you as you get older, right?
Yeah.
And this thought of perfection, because if we just bring it to even the spiritual aspect of it, you know, I feel like when we were young, we were always taught like God is perfect, so we have to be perfect. And what that looked like and how that was defined was based on the people who were in the pulpit or elders or people who were more senior than you. But at the end of the day, it's like, yes, God is perfect, but he gives us the ability and the power then to tap into that perfection, right? Knowing that we can't be perfect on our own. But I just want to bring it back to relationships a little bit. How has being perfect or the thought of being perfect impacted your relationships, mainly romantic relationships, but also relationships in general? How did that impact you?
So I'm going to start with, I say a controversial one because it's one that I never really thought of, but I think it's key. And it's not necessarily romantic, first of all, but I think it's relationships in general, right?
Yeah.
So I feel that sometimes when you have now gone on this path of perfection, you know, doing very well academically, doing very well just in your day-to-day, being very organized, you know, doing the things that we may be attached to being perfect as a human being, right? It can make you, what maybe trying to say here? I'm trying to find the right word because this could come out the wrong way.
No, I feel you.
But I feel like it can make you a little bit complacent in relationship.
Oh, no, we got to unpack that. Yeah. We got to unpack that a little bit.
And this is a recent discovery because before I wouldn't have dwelled on this. I would have spoken more on like, you know, the people pleasing side and that we know that that's a thing.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that I never really uncovered is how it can make you complacent. So you can sometimes feel like you should deserve to get away with things because you know that actually you deliver in all these other areas.
Okay.
And so let me speak specifically to my family. I think sometimes the way in which I've treated my direct household parents, siblings, I felt like, well, I do this for you guys and I do this for you guys and I do this and I'm really good at this. So, you know, you almost owe me, you know, you almost owe me. And you know what's funny? I feel like we take that approach sometimes with God.
Ooh.
So again, you know, you're growing up. Well, I'm not having sex outside of marriage. I'm not drinking. I'm not smoking. I'm not doing this. Right. So because I'm not doing this, God, you owe me. You know? And yeah, I think if I just think of relationships as a whole, I was like, ooh, this is very dangerous.
Yeah.
It's very dangerous because now it's almost like you've created your own kind of like checklist of why you should qualify. And when you don't, or when you don't get your way, it can be very destructive.
Yeah.
And so I think if I was to bring that to romantic relationships, again, I'm thinking generally here, maybe not a specific situation, but if you feel like you've ticked a box for somebody in every aspect and they still don't see you, it's like, again, well, I've done everything that they should, you know, that you think they want, right?
Yeah, I've been perfect for them.
I've been perfect for them, so they should. And so I think, let me sit with that a bit more. Yeah. I think if I think about romantic relationships, I think there was a time, or let me not even say a time. I think I'm a person who's very all or nothing. So I love very hard, or I'm just, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A bit more chill. So I think once I'm invested in someone, I'm willing to give everything. But that is and again, it's not saying that you shouldn't give everything, but we need to look at what does everything mean? Like, where does the line draw? Because I think if everything is now like sacrificing yourself, and when I say yourself, as in your thoughts, your dreams, your ideals, your values, you know, being always open to compromise, being always willing to just let go of maybe whatever you are doing to accommodate someone else. And we're not talking a marriage context here. We're talking dating. We're talking very early stage. I think that can be quite dangerous. And I think again, if we're talking about this aspect of perfection, I'm talking about this straight line, but the truth is the line's always moving. And so now what's happened is you're always trying to keep up with wherever the line's going.
Yeah.
And not considering, wait, is this line going into territory that I shouldn't even be entering? Because my thing is I want to be seen perfect in their eyes.
And it's something that you said too, because that kind of brings a little bit boundaries, like that topic of boundaries. Because if your line of perfection is always moving, you don't have boundaries for yourself. You're building whatever your boundaries are based on what that other person likes, not based on what you stand for or who you are.
Yeah.
And what perfectionism does, it kind of hides, it also hides the fact that we also need to grow. We also have growing to do. We also have things that we need to change, right? And we cannot be perfect in a human being's eyes, because human beings, we don't even understand ourselves, right?
Right.
So perfectionism is, it almost like covers your eyes to the reality of what the situation actually is. And as you said, it blurs the lines. You don't really know what your boundaries are. I think we're going to come back to boundaries a bit, but I wanted to touch, there's something that you said about like perfectionism. And have you ever thought that perfectionism kind of held you back from trying something? Now, the reason why I say that is because I know, as, you know, Lighthouse PR agency and, you know, we are his project, obviously things that God has given you and he's blessed you to create these spaces. But also 12 things to try a thing. I know. Yes, I know that was it. So tell me a bit about perfectionism and how that kind of maybe held you back a bit, and what finally broke for you to say, you know what? I'm going to move on a different path, even if it's not what I think is perfect, or even if I'm scared, I'm going to do it. Like, tell me about that experience.
Yeah. So I think for me, as you mentioned, rightfully, being a perfectionist, you know, making that a part of my identity definitely held me back because I'm a big planner. So I would have ideas and I would think them through, and I would think them through, and I would think them through. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years have passed, and I'm still thinking them through because it's like I don't want to give. Like, I don't want there to be a slither of anything potentially going wrong here. I want to make sure I've covered everything. I want to make sure no one can turn around and say, oh, but you missed this, but you missed that. It felt like an attack on who I was. I had kind of prided myself on being someone who, you know, has already seen around every corner and has already thought things through. And again, you know, we could sit here all day and talk about this and talk about, you know, where that stems from and the impact of kind of feeling like if I did get something wrong, what the outcome or the consequence was going to be. So I think a lot of it for me, coming back to my train of thought, I think a lot of it for me, your question, had it ever impacted me?
How did perfectionism hold you back?
Yeah, it was holding me back. It was holding me back because I never wanted to try and fail. And fail for me didn't mean like it didn't happen. It just meant if anything has been missed, this is a failure. And it wasn't that, when I even thought about it, it wasn't so much the failing. It was, again, as I said, what was the response going to be? What was someone going to now think of me based on said thing? So I think the breaking point for me, I guess to give a bit more context, I didn't necessarily realize how much perfectionism was causing me a lot of anxiety. And so I would, you know, I remember going to uni and the first week I'd come back home because I thought we had no lectures. And then I got an email saying we've got a lecture. And I was like, oh my days, I need to get back. And I've come back to uni. I've come back a little bit late and I didn't want to go into the room because I was feeling like everybody's gonna see that I'm late and it's the first week and the this and the that and that. So I didn't go into the lecture hall, and then I didn't want to go into the seminar room. And now it was like, and I was just thinking, I knew it was bad, but I just thought, I never realized how bad it was even then, right? So that's uni times. I'm 18. Let's fast forward. I'm now, I think, 25. And I'm in my, you know, my grad role. I'm doing project management. I've gone to a meeting and I remember getting to this meeting. I'm so thirsty, like I'm parched. It's been a long journey. I was like, I can't wait to sit down and have a glass of water. And as I've sat down, someone's come around. They're like, oh, do you want a drink? Oh, I'm like, oh, yes, please. They're pouring. And as I go to drink, I see a little hair in my cup.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh, okay. Now, first of all, I knew I'm not drinking this. That was never an option. But I thought, do I ask them for a new one or do I just leave it? And I had this real internal battle with like, okay, if I ask them for a new one, what if they, you know, I really thought they were going to be offended and they were going to think badly of me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm so thirsty and I know I'm not drinking this cup regardless. What should I do? And I think that moment for me was like, hold on, this is bad because this is just a drink of water. But I'm ruminating so much on these thoughts. And in the end, I said, oh, sorry, you know, I just need to pour a new one. There's something in here. And I went and I poured it. And then, you know, it was all fine. And it's funny, it's like no one batted an eyelid. It's like no one even realized what happened.
Yeah.
But to me, it was a big thing.
Yeah.
And I think that day, I vowed to myself, do you know what? I'm going to do one thing every day that scares me. And of course, scary for me it wasn't always bungee jump level. It was as simple as, you know, simple as that. Let me pour a new glass, you know, let me say to someone on the street, like, oh, I like your dress. Like just small things that I would stop myself from doing because I'd think, oh, but what if? So yeah, I think that's kind of how it started for me. I don't know if you want to tap in.
Yeah, no, I feel like it's interesting that you share that story because perfectionism and mental health and mental wellness. See, sometimes we don't understand. So, and mental health and mental wellness is another topic that we'll talk about on this podcast. But we don't realize sometimes the thoughts that impact our mental health and mental wellness. We don't sometimes understand how much perfectionism and wanting to be perfect and being scared to do something because I don't want to get it wrong, how it stops you.
Yeah.
You know, earlier you spoke about being complacent. And sometimes I feel like it's almost like you are stuck in a space where you feel like you can't move. Almost like this. I was watching this one movie and obviously they were talking about this in terms of like, you know, sin, how people right now, they're, you know, let's say they're in a jail cell, but the door's open, but they're so comfortable in the cell. They just, you know, they don't want to leave until one day the door is locked and it's too late. And even though, yes, that was a Christian aspect, I even look at it sometimes with perfection. Like you're in this cell, you are literally locking yourself in jail, but the door is wide open. You can say, you know what? I want to break this barrier. I want to move forward because I know that there's more for me, right? And it's just interesting. I mean, we can talk a lot about your experience with perfectionism. There's a lot touched on boundaries and things. And I know these are topics we're going to get to in the future. But I think I just want to go now to just understanding more about how you broke through that, right?
Yeah.
And the tools that maybe you can tell our audience and our listeners. So if there are 3 tools that you've used in your journey, in your experience of this equation to either solve it or at least to help you get one step closer to actually solving it. So were there 3 tools that kind of helped you on this journey?
Before we get to the tools,
tell me,
you just gave a really great analogy about a jail cell, right? And I just want to lean into that a little bit more. So earlier I said, you know, this is how I viewed perfection, but this is something that's changed. And it's funny because, you know, when you are claiming that perfectionist title, again, you're comfortable. You're often not seeing it as an issue. You've seen it as, if I do this, I've done
like you're
something
good.
Like I'm good, you know, and not seeing how crippling and debilitating it can be, right? And I think something that really helped me was being able to actually understand what does the Bible say about perfection? Because I'll be honest, a lot of this negative view on perfection that I had came from some of my experiences with church. It came from, feeling like I will only be seen if I get it bang on. And I'll only be respected if I'm, bang on, and not feeling, I guess, understanding and knowing that there is room for error and that God actually, like you said, it's about growth. It's not about just, looking the part. And it's funny because when you go to the biblical idea of perfection, if you look at the Greek, the word is teleos, right? Now, teleos actually means completion. So when we look at verses that say things like, be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. Let's pause for a minute. There's no way in our human in our humanity, we can be perfect like God.
No way. Yeah. No way.
God is.
Yeah. We do a big G, not little one. Okay.
So it don't really.
Yeah,
right?
there's no way. Yeah.
But what God is calling us to is completion. If you look at Philippians 1:6, that talks about, and let me not even butcher this verse because it's one of my favorites, but it's he who has begun a good work in you will be faithful to complete it until the day of Jesus Christ. So again, there's this idea of completion. If we look at Romans 12:2, it's saying, be ye not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, right? So if we now realize, okay, teleos is about completion, not perfect in terms of like this perfect bow kind of thing. If it's about completion, then it's demonstrating that actually there's this idea of process.
Yeah.
Because for something to be complete, it has to go on a journey.
Yeah.
If we think about, even how like diamonds and things are made and, all these things that we hold to high value, they've gone through a refinement process.
Ooh,
they've gone through something. And I think a lot of the time when we see perfection, we see it by just trying to like get on the mark, just very quickly, and miss that God is actually trying to transform us. It's actually a transformative process.
Yeah.
And so when I understood that, or have begun to understand that, it made me realize, Zion, it's okay to get it wrong. And the first time I said that, it sounded very mad, because I think as a Christian, a lot of the time we are not brought up in a way where there's any room for error. It's like, no, you don't get it wrong. You just get it right. But I think what I'm learning, and I hope that this is not taken out of context and people can actually understand what I'm saying here, but it's that God is the one who is doing the work within us. And that's even what led me to form We Are His Project. That was something that I felt the Holy Spirit lead me to, that, a lot of us, we're getting to, our 20s or 30s, and we're supposed to be this perfect adult, right? But adulting is hard. Adulting is, it's not easy to balance friendships. It's not easy to encounter new relationships. Like sometimes you make mistakes. Sometimes you get it wrong. But guess what? You're a project that God is working on. So just because you got it wrong today doesn't mean you have to now live in that state of getting it wrong. It means God can take you on a journey to help you get it right. And actually, sometimes it's in the getting it wrong that you then realize, oh, that wasn't the best way for me to deal with this. Next time, I'm going to do it like this. But if sometimes you're just sticking with something, even though you're not sure it's the right thing, but it just, looks good to other people, could be small things. You're someone who just replies to everyone's messages very quickly because you're worried about them, feeling like you don't care. But you know that it's doing a disservice to you. You know that you're sacrificing other things you're supposed to be doing to constantly be on call. Until you try something else, you're not going to learn what actually works and what actually is a healthy boundary. So for me, We Are His Project is even a reminder to me that it's not in my strength. God is doing a work, and that work will never be complete until when? The day of Jesus Christ.
That's it.
But you have to be, of course, be intentional, but know that, the fact that God even came and died for our sins when we were still yet sinners. Listen, there's some verses we can. When we were still yet sinners, it shows that he didn't say, no, come to me perfect. He said, I've died for you whilst you're still a sinner, but guess what? We're going to work on that. We're going to work on that. So
I just want to say something about the Greek, because as I'm listening, I'm smiling because I honestly have a personal equation that I had to deal with, but trust me, we'll get into that later. But it's the fact that you were saying being perfect, the Greek is about completion, which means that you're not complete on your own. You need somebody else for completion. You get what I'm saying? Like, you need something else to actually to make it complete. And it's the Holy Spirit being with you that gives you that completion. And I think it's also interesting too, because when you talked about boundaries, when you talked about, everything that you were mentioning, I think the deepest thing that for me is, and as you said earlier, you're sticking with something, even though it's not working, even though it's not necessarily, it may not be for you, but you're sticking with it because this is what you think perfection looks like. But what you said is, and even in your experience of trying something different, trying something new, right? And recognizing when those things that you're sticking with, they're not for you, recognizing when it's time to let go and time to move on. I love that. So anyone who's listening, who's struggling with perfection, might be, struggling with something when it comes to perfection and not understanding the concept or not really seeing how they can break free from that. What are 3 tools that you would suggest to them?
Okay, so one of these tools just came to me right now, and it's literally off the back of what you said. You need someone else to complete you. And a lot of us think it's another person. So again, the perfectionism path is always, I need someone else to validate me. I need someone else to tell me that I've done it right. I've got it right. Yeah. And actually, it's only the Holy Spirit. It's only God that can complete us. That's not to say don't get married. That's not to say don't have a relationship. But it's to know that completion actually begins with Christ. Ooh. Right? And if we see it that way, the question or the invitation is, how are we stepping into that space to allow God to complete us? How are we getting comfortable with that notion? Especially if you're in your singleness, how are you being comfortable with it being, no, I can still be on this journey of completion because God is living in me. God is working through me. God and I have relationship. So the first thing I would say off the back of that is to carve out some time with God each day. And even me, this is a reminder to myself because I do my little devotion in the morning, but sometimes the devotion becomes monotonous, and it's actually like, no, carve out some time with God. Some of us, we're leaders, we've got different things going on. We're parents, we do a lot of, again, if people are Christian listening to this, we do a lot of showing up with God for others. But do we do showing up with God for ourselves? Yeah. So carve out some time, could be 15 minutes, but just, there's no expectation per se in terms of like, okay, I must do, but I would just invite you to start with that. Carve out some time, and whatever you decide to do with that time, whether it is spending it in prayer, whether it's meditating on a verse, whether it's listening to the words of a song and just having a chat with God, but do something intentional for you with him. And I mean, I would encourage you to take that to scripture also. Yeah. Because it's the scripture that then shows you who you actually are and helps to build and refine you. But I think just starting there is a great place. I think the second tool is to try things. And especially if you're battling perfectionism, I would say try things, because for me, I didn't used to try things because I didn't want to get them wrong. And I remember for ages not being able to swim because I tried swimming when I was in year 3. I tried it in year 5 and somehow I'd gone from beginners to intermediates and back to beginners.
Oh no.
And I said, this isn't a good look for me.
Yeah, no.
I don't know failure. I can't, right? So I'm just not going to do it. Yeah. But the interesting thing is in my adulthood, I said, you know what? After this process, like you said, 12 weeks to try a thing. And again, if you guys want to know more about that, you can come and find me. We could talk about it. Yes. But I think trying things led me to see like, oh, okay. One, I'm activating my faith because now this is new territory. This is not a place I understand. Yeah. But now I have to trust something greater than myself. Yeah. Right. But I think with that, when I then went to swimming, I was in a place where I really thought, I can't do this. I've tried, I've failed, I can't do it. But you know what? I'm going to try again. And that allowed me to go on a journey of even trusting God and trusting my instructor, trusting people outside of myself, but not me trying to like please them, me just allowing them to pour into me. I like that. And I wrap that up to say that I learned how to swim. Woo-woo, and it was a blessing, I might not be the best, but I can swim.
Love that.
And so I think, try something outside of your comfort zone, something that maybe makes you a bit anxious, a bit nervous, or something that's just, you're not perfect at yet, or maybe at all, but you're not pursuing perfection by the society way of perfection. You're pursuing completion. You're pursuing that process, that getting through. The
process, yes.
And the last tool I would give, it's actually a book that I want to recommend. It's called Boundaries. I believe it's by Henry Cloud and a Dr. somebody. I've even forgotten the other man's name. But
That's it.
they have 2 books actually,
Okay.
Boundaries and Boundaries in Dating.
Oh, okay.
And I think, again, if you're somebody trying to solve this equation of perfection and you find yourself, I guess, either without any boundary lines or just always teetering on different lines, you know, not really knowing how much to give, how much is too much, how much isn't enough. Like, you just need some support in that area. I would really recommend those 2 books because it deals with just boundaries in life. And I think, you know, we'll probably talk about this another time, but if you explore the boundaries in your own life, just how you move, that informs a lot of the decisions that you make. But then if you also now want to bring that to dating, it again helps you to look at, you know, what things you should be considering, what things you should be accepting, what things you shouldn't be, what things you maybe should tolerate and, you know, be open to. But it just helps to unpack that in a little bit more depth. And yeah, just help you to see that this whole thing of being perfect is an illusion. Unless you're looking at it through the lens of Christ, unless you're looking at it through teleos, you're looking at it through a very warped and even prideful mentality that is not of God. Is not of God. So,
girl,
yeah.
Honestly, thank you so much. And I feel like those 3 tools are super helpful. And I feel like, how can people connect with you, girl? Because I feel like there's so much stuff that you have there, even obviously 12 weeks to try. I mean, I was also participating in it. And I will say that it really helped me to understand, like, even maybe there are some ways with me, because I don't find myself being a perfectionist. However, there are certain things that I do that maybe in my mind, if this isn't the way, if this isn't like, it might not be good. So yeah, how can people connect with you? Because I feel like we need to have more of these discussions, even in the comments, you know, people can have this, share their thoughts in the comments. But yeah, how can people connect with you on social media and yeah, just learn more about you and what you do?
Yes. So I'd say I'm very present on Instagram. Essentially follow We Are His Project. We Are His Project on Instagram. If you want to follow me, it's Nara Noir Fidem. So that's NARAHNOIREFIDEM. And I think, yeah, Instagram's the best place to find me. If you discover me on TikTok, it's at your own peril. But I mean, again, even on this is more so relationships, but this does feed into business. So if people want to connect with me also on LinkedIn, you can find me. You can literally type Nara Noir, I'll pop up there. And also the agency is up at the Lighthouse as well. And there's a lot that we're also doing there for community and storytelling. But I think, yeah, just this kind of space of being personal. I would say you can connect with me. But yeah, I'd say that's the main places to find me.
I love it. Well, thank you, girl, for coming down to the Equation Pod. And yeah, we will definitely see you again.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure as always.
Thanks for watching another episode of The Equation. If you want to join our growing community of equation solvers, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also, click the notification bell so you can be notified when new equations drop. If you found this topic interesting, we want to hear from you. Please share your views in the comments and share this video with others so they too can become equation solvers. And remember, with Christ, all equations are solvable.